Hello, I hope you're doing well today. Today I want to talk about one of perhaps my most favorite book on building wealth. And it's by J.L. Collins. And the name of the book is A Simple Path to Wealth. And, and that's exactly what J.L. Collins lays out. Now, this originally started as a series of letters that J.L. wrote to his daughter, hoping that over time she would embrace the advice. I don't know if, I think he kind of indicated she really wasn't interested in money or investing. And so he was concerned that she would go through life and miss out on a great opportunity in building wealth. And so he wrote her a series of letters, started a website, and then eventually collected all his advice and put it into this book and released it originally in 2016. And I must say that the book is wonderful. Highly recommend that you read it. The main premise is that building wealth over time takes time, but is not hard. It's not complicated. He simply advises you. He points out how the stock market has continuously gone up over time, and that if you invest for the long term, the best route to go is to simply take money and invest it in Vanguard's total stock index fund, which is very low cost. And that's what he recommends, that you simply invest money into this one investment and let it grow over time, and that's it. And he argues that the stock market will go up over a long period of time. Of course, there are no guarantees, and he's not giving advice, individualized advice, and I'm not giving advice either, but he's observing. And again, in this series of letters to his daughter, that is exactly what he's recommending. You simply take money, you invest it in Vanguard's total stock index fund, and just watch it grow over time, which I think is excellent advice. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, one simple investment, and that's it. And that's what you do over time during the portion of your life that you're building or accumulating wealth. That is what he recommends. And I agree with his advice. Now he talks about adding a second fund, Vanguard's total bond index fund, and transitioning to that, say between 5 and 10 years as you approach a period of time where you're going to retire or you're going to stop working. He advises or suggests or recommends that you start transitioning some of your wealth into Vanguard's total bond index fund, say somewhere between 10 and 25%. And that's during your wealth preservation phase, after your wealth accumulation phase. And I'm not a big fan of investing in bonds, but I can't agree with him too much. It makes a lot of sense to me. Now, his advice, there are several things he recommends which I don't necessarily agree with. One of those is to save 50% of your income, which I find impractical and perhaps even nearly impossible to accomplish, especially if you don't make a lot of money. And he's arguing that you need to save 50% of your income so you can build up enough wealth to have what he calls FU money, which basically means that if you hit a point in your life where you're at a job that you can't stand and you don't like, you have enough money to be able to walk away from that job. And maybe it's not that you never have to work again, but you have enough resources where you can walk away from a job that you do not like, or you work for a manager or boss that you cannot stand, and have some margin, some cushion in order to find another job or another career and not feel like that you're locked into working that job that you can't stand. Which, I agree with the premise, but again, like I said, I think it's pretty impractical to save 50% of your income, especially if you don't make a lot of money. But that's up to you. You will have to decide that. Some other points of the book, he suggests avoiding debt, which I certainly agree with. He suggests that that you invest, use Vanguard as your brokerage, as well as Vanguard's investments, such as the total stock index and the total bond index, which, I use Vanguard's total stock index fund quite a bit. I'm not a big fan of Vanguard's total bond index. It hasn't done very well in the last several years. So I kind of like a bond index from iShares, and it's a medium length maturity, say 5 to 10 year corporate bonds, which I find is also low cost and has performed better than Vanguard's total bond index fund. Again, not a recommendation for you, but I'm just sharing with you what are my favorites. And also, I don't think it's necessary to use Vanguard as a brokerage, as a place to house your brokerage account or your retirement accounts. He argues that because essentially it's investor owned, that there's better alignment with the customers, the investors, the people that use the platform, versus, say, a Fidelity, which is privately owned, or Schwab, TD Ameritrade, which is a for-profit. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, but I say use what you're comfortable with. Other notes I made I wanted to share with you. JL doesn't think that it makes sense for you to use an investment advisor or money manager to take care of your finances, especially if you follow his suggestions and keep it very simple, straight, and straightforward. And I would tend to agree with that. He also argues that you lose out on some of your investment returns if you pay 1% or more to a financial advisor to manage your money for you, which I tend to agree with. And he argues that maybe if you do need advice, maybe paying someone an hourly rate for advice would be a better way to go. And I would agree with that in general. But again, you have to decide this for yourself. I guess that's all I wanted to share with you. But overall, I agree with his strategy for building wealth. And so please consider getting the book and reading it. I got my book actually from my local library. I had the original book many years ago, and I ended up donating it and getting rid of it. And he just released a newly revised version here in the first part of 2025. And so it's he revised and updated it just slightly, but it's still the same advice as the original book. So if you're interested, you might check out the new edition. Check with your local library. Maybe you can check it out and read it as I have done. If money is tight or you don't want to spend money on a book, I certainly understand it. But some of you also, if you have kids or nieces and nephews, young people in your life, you might consider, if you agree with his philosophy and his recommendations, you might consider buying a book and giving it to a young person in your life as a gift, because I think it's wonderful advice, and I certainly have been following a very similar strategy for my kids, and it's something worth considering. So I hope you enjoyed this content and this book review. If so, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, leave a comment. Have you read J.L. Collins' book, A Simple Path to Wealth? If so, would you agree or disagree with his observations and recommendations? I'd be curious what your thoughts are on it. If not, please do consider. And again, my name is Walter, and I retired at the end of 2024, and this channel exists to provide some insight to early retirement for those interested, or if you're preparing for retirement or just wanting to live a life of financial freedom. If so, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment, as I said. That's it. We'll talk soon. Bye now.